Greetings YouTube and welcome to my latest weapons build. Now I have made a number of flails over the years. Some of them really quite cool. I made one with a kind of a cement head. I made a great Husite flail which had a 6-foot shaft, and I made 3 different heads for that one. And they were very cool, one of which is spiked, and it's just lethally, horribly, ugly, dangerous. But I've never made a multi-headed flail. Now I realize that there is probably zero historical evidence that anyone ever used a multi-headed flail in combat. There isn't even a lot of evidence that the flails that we see quite frequently in illustrations, even from the period, were ever used in combat. Maybe people just like drawing them, who knows. Maybe the rule of cool played out in the past as it does now. People just like cool stuff. So I have decided to make one, and I'm going to use this piece of square stock tubing here to be the striking heads. So I'm going to create 3 cubes, so I'm going to cut 3 sections of this, which are exactly the same length as they are wide, and I'm going to use this threaded rod as the connecting device between the striking head and the chain. And I'm going to drill a hole through the center, whatever the center of this will be when I'm finished, and that will where I'll pass a bar through. I'll pass this through, and that will pass through a link in the chain, and that will hold that together. And I'm going to put a spike on it, and since I'm going to be putting a spike on the section going all the way through, I thought I might create a couple of short ones coming at 90 degrees, so when I'm finished you'll end up with each striking head having 4 spiked impact points. Now because this is 1/4-20 and that's not a particularly robust thickness, I'm going to make them pretty short. So they're going to stick out past the nuts holding them in place, but they're not going to be really long. But they're definitely going to add a cool factor, as well as making the striking heads a heck of a lot more dangerous. I'm going to be using this piece of wood, which is, I believe, just a piece of oak baluster. I picked it up at the hardware store for like less than $3. Like $2.30, something like that. And I'm going to use this piece of strap steel to make some laggets. Now laggets are the supporting metal plates you will often see on pole arms and such, and they're usually on 2 sides, and that is to reinforce it as well as to protect it from edged weapons that might hit it. Because if the edged weapon hits this, it obviously can't cut through it, and if it hits on this, it's stopped because it will be... Get it up there so you can see. Sorry, I'm doing that with my left hand. So it'll be on both sides like this, so the edge weapon can't really get too far because it's going to then hit the edge of the steel. So my goal is to have it come down a foot. I'll put a point on it just probably for attractiveness purposes. Have it bend around here and then come off on the other side. And since I am not 100% sure if I can pull this off with pure measurements, what I'm probably going to do is put a point on it, bend it at 90 degrees, and when I have it bent at 90 degrees, then fit it so I can get the hole in the center, and use a eye bolt will pass through a hole and into this, and that is what will be connecting the 3 short pieces of chain, and at the end of each short piece of chain will be a striking head. No, not too short. I'd like to see if I can get them 15 inches long. I don't know if I have 45 inches of chain. We're going to have to figure that out. So I'd like to use this, not just because it's free at the moment, because I've had this for years, but I like the look, the vibe. It's kind of got that nice patina. But if it doesn't have what I need, and I need to go get new chain, I will, and I will make sure I have enough of it. I'll get 4 feet of it. But that will work out quite well for me. And this is just a piece of threaded rod I already had here. I already had this, I already had this. I did purchase this new, and I did purchase this new, and I forgot to get the eye bolt, which I think I have upstairs. Though I will poke around down here and see if I've got one already, because I have eye bolts stashed everywhere. Eye bolts are very useful. Alrighty, so the first thing I'm going to do with this project is probably going to work on the striking heads, because they're going to be the most intense part of this. So I need to take a measurement with this with my vernier calipers, and then make a mark here for the length, and then cut on the outside so that I get exactly this, hopefully get exactly this, a cube, or very close to a cube, and then repeat that process until I get 3 pieces. And the rest of this will be saved for some other project. I actually don't know where I got this. It's awesome. It is awesome tubing. I don't remember where I got this stuff. It's a nice patina, so I didn't buy it new. So I think I may have picked it up at an estate sale or something. But it must have been kicked around for a while because I completely forgot I had it till I was like looking for project materials. I'm like, hey, look at this. I've got this awesome piece of tubing. It's nice and heavy. It's good gauge steel in this thing. So it'll make perfect striking heads. Not only will the corners themselves be striking heads, but the points I'm going to put them on them will be additional striking heads. So this is going to become a lethal object when I'm finished. And I'm going to reduce the end of this in diameter by making it an octagon. And I'm going to, so I'll figure out, it'll come down 12 inches for the laggets, and then I'll probably take a 3-inch gap, and then the rest of it will be an octagon shaped. And the last time I did that, I used that wheel to achieve it. And I may just use my draw knife this time for fun, see if I can get some better control with that. The only issue with that is I have to find a way. Ideally, I would hold it this way while working on it. So I have to find a way to hold it this way so I can do a draw cut. I have an idea. We'll see if it works. Oh, and something else I thought you guys might find interesting. I picked this up ages and ages ago. This is an antique saw blade vise. This is designed specifically for this purpose. It holds a saw blade in this position so you can sharpen it with a file. Now this is a brand new blade, never used by anybody for anything. I bought it in an estate sale for $1. It's a nice, really nice steel, and this will end up as a some kind of a weapon project at some point. I've got 3 of them, one of which has already been put into one of the weapons, and you may have already seen that video. But I just want to show you what it's supposed to be used for. But I've had this thing for years, and it finally made its way down into the shop, mostly because now that I have a sufficient quantity of serotonin in my brain, I've been trying to get better at organizing things. It's a slow process for me. It's not easy, but I'm working on it. But this is what it does. This right here loosens this, and that lets you adjust the ball socket. This whole thing rotates in here. This tightens on the blade to hold the blade tight, and then the little screw down here clamps it onto your bench surface with these lobed feet here. It's kind of interesting to have a shape like that. I don't know why it's shaped like that. I find that intriguing. I mean, it's intentionally shaped like that. Why is it shaped like that? Why wouldn't you just want a full-size lobe? Is there a reason that I'm unaware of? Because this is portable, this is the kind of thing you could have on a tinker's cart or tinker's wagon, or a blacksmith could carry with him in the back of a cart. And you can set it up, use it. When you're done, you put it down. You put it away. So this could be potentially designed to fit onto irregular surfaces. I'm not positive on that. I don't know who made it. I don't know how old it is. I know it's antique. I picked it up for an absolute song. I think I paid $5 for this at an estate sale. I'm telling you, people, go to estate sales. You get awesome deals at them because people are just trying to move stuff out. Yes, just yesterday I bought my wife a American Giant hoodie for $2 in like new condition, and they're like normally $150. I know, I'm wearing one right now. They're not cheap. They're awesome hoodies, but they're American made and expensive. And I got one for her for $2. So yeah, estate sales, great deals. Some more action cam shots today. I wanted to show you how I have this set up from this cut. So I'm using my clamp that's passing through one of my dog holes. That gives me the ability to reach further into the table. I have it pushed against here and pushed against here, and I'll be going this way. So that gives me a lot of stability, and that's one of the reasons I have this. That makes things very nice and stable. The weight of the table is quite sufficient to be able to handle this, because again, I'm cutting this way, so any force I'm applying is going to be going in that way. I have the scratch line, and then I put a marker line on the left of it, the waist side, and I'm going to come in here and try to just do a cut right there on the waist, and then if I need to clean it up I will clean it up at my belt sander. which should be able to give me the ability to get this thing be kind of square. So just a matter of go ahead and cutting this. Well, it isn't perfect. I'll freely admit this, it's not perfect, but I can clean it up, and it will be close enough to a cube for my requirements. And then I will be using my pair of Bernier calipers. Very important. Always have a pair of these in your shop. And then do the same thing to make 3 more of these. I'm probably going to clean this up a little bit before I go and do that. But now clean this up a smidge, and this is going to be my my first block for this project. But yeah, that's basically what I'm going to be doing. Just doing that a bunch until I get the pieces that I need for this project. But again, I'm going to throw a flat wheel in this real quick and clean that up so it's a little cleaner before I go and put the mark on it for the next cube. So that's what I'm doing. So I have my 3 striking heads, and I have it set up in this vise, this clamp. Why do I have this set up like this? Because there isn't any really convenient way to hold this while I'm going to be drilling it. So I'm going to be using this so I have a nice firm grip on it, and I'm not going to have to worry about it moving around too much. And I'm just going to have to drill it through there and just hold it in place, because this is a very small object and I need to go all the way through it. So that's probably the safest and simplest way to do it. I'm going to put a big object that'll give me the control I need and hold it in place. I was also able to use this lovely little handmade square I picked up a while back at an antique show. I used that to help to cut these, and it always makes me smile when I get to use an antique tool, particularly one that's been handmade. This is not made by some shop. This is made by some guy's garage or something. His own personal project, and now I own it, and I think it's really cool, and I'm glad that I can give it a new life and use it on a regular basis. So now I'm going to set up a 1/4-inch drill bit, and it goes zoom right through there, and then set up the measurement on the other side so I can go all the way through again. So I end up with 4 holes, but I only have to drill it twice. The striking heads are done as far as cutting and drilling is concerned, and I have my lengths of chain, and I was correct. I was able to find a eye bolt down here in the shop without having to go upstairs. So now I'm going to start working on the threaded rod. So I'm going to need 2, 4, 6 short pieces that are going to have points on them. So I'm going to need to figure out how long they need to be, and I'm going to have to figure that out in conjunction with realizing that I'm going to have a nut on either side. So there'll be a nut on the inside, which will be what holds it in place, and then there'll be a nut on the outside, which locks the whole thing together, so that I need to figure out how long I need beyond that. So I'm going to monkey around with this. I'll clean this up and do that, and then so I can get some an idea of how long I want them to be. Then after they've all been cut, I will then have to put points on them. They're not going to be needle points on these, they don't have to be, but just points. Ironically, I ended up deburring the edges because I handle these with my hands so much, I didn't want to get cut. I did not deburr the holes though. There's no point, because very shortly there'll be nuts covering them and it won't matter. So 2 of these are 8 links long and 1 of them is 9 links long, just how it worked out. And so that one will be the middle chain when I'm finished. Okay, time to use this end as a sample piece so I can figure out how long I need these to be. These are all cut now. These ended up being 1 inch long, so they're going to be the ones that the short ones. And these, I don't know how long they are. I didn't measure them. But interesting is that I found the best proportion was when I had that installed. I made the point stick out the exact width of a nut, and I found that to be the most visually appealing amount of exposure of the threaded rod, and it just turned out to be within like 10,000ths of a single of a whole inch. I was thrilled. So now I need to put a single point on all of those and double points on these, and I'm going to have to do, I can do one of them with my drill on my belts with my angle grinder. I can do all of those. One at the other end I'll have to do by hand, because it's maybe not. If I make it at 45 degrees or slightly less, maybe I can get that back into my drill bit. Because sometimes you can't. Once you've put a point in one end, sometimes the chuck of the drill won't grab it properly. So maybe it will. We'll find that out. Now I set up my angle grinder over here with a flap wheel on it, and start putting some points on these threaded rods. Here we have the completed flail head. So I assembled everything. As I said, I ended up with an 8 link, 9 link, and 8 link. So the 9 link is in the middle. So you have the short ones with a nut on the inside, a nut on the outside, and that's how they look. And I was able to actually put points on both ends of the long ones in my drill bit, thanks to the fact that they weren't very big and that the chuck is long enough that I could slide a 1/4 inch rod in there pretty deep. So that made my life so much easier not having to do that by hand, and they're more consistent. But this is just bloody beautiful. Now I realize the chain is slopping around in there. I don't care. There isn't any real way to conveniently lock that in place. I can't really get 2 more 1/4 20 bolts nuts in there to center it, and I don't care. It's not going to, if you'll pardon the pun, it's not going to impact the efficiency of this thing. Then I got this thing all of them onto this eye bolt, and I used my cold chisel here just to open that up wide enough to get these chains on, and then I used the vise to close it back up again. Let's hear it for cold chisels. So yeah, this is absolutely beautiful. So now I'm going to move on to working on the shaft, because this is done, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. The next step is going to be working on the laggets for both sides. They're going to loop around the end, and that will have a hole in it. I think it's a 1/4 inch. I got to measure it. Like a 1/4 inch hole working in the lagget, so I can get this then inside the wood, and I'll make the hole in the wood. I'll make a pilot hole that's a little bit smaller than that, obviously, so it'll bite when I screw it in. I will admit that getting this into that's going to be a pain in the butt. What I'll probably end up doing is holding this in the vise and just screwing the shaft onto it, because trying to turn this entire flexible thing with points on the end is going to be really darn dangerous. But this thing is, I mean, I'm putting this together, and as the first of these came completely together, and I was giggling like a child, like a school kid. I'm like, this is awesome! I am a genius! Yeah, this was really damn cool, and this looks so dangerous. And I really do think that the proportions are awesome. The proportions of these to each other and to the lengths of the chain. I love the vibe of this thing. Got these, it's older, rusted kind of thing. It's not even and shiny and stuff, but just a little bit of hit a shine on those nuts and those points. This is awesome. And like I said, these are not needle points, but they are definitely, if I were to squeeze on this right now, I would hurt myself. So I'm not going to do that. So time to put this aside and then start working on the lagget. Well, first after I'm going to have to brush off my tool top, because it is in fact covered in dust, and I don't want to get my wood too dirty at the moment. Alright, So, this is coming along just awesome. This is beautiful. I am so happy. My plan for one contiguous laget that I could just bend around the end of my shaft just isn't going to work. I can make a single right-hand angle bend without any difficulty. It's when I'm trying to make the second one to make it wrap around the baluster that I'm using as a shaft, that's the problem. I don't have the ability to really heat steel to the point where I can soften it, and I don't have the equipment to make that kind of a sharp turn after a second sharp turn. So I don't have a lugs essentially that I could bend something around and then hammer it into a crisp edge. I just don't have that ability. So we're going to go with 2 straight laggets. Now that does present me with a slight problem. That means that the ends of these laggets could be exposed, and I don't want that. I want them protected. It's one of the reasons I wanted to do a contiguous, because that meant that there would be no point where the laget would be exposed because it would be one piece of steel. However, in my collection of stuff, I have this piece of bar stock, and literally this is all I got left of this particular one. And this is 1.5 inches wide, whereas the shaft of the width of the baluster is 1.25 inches, which means this will stick over just enough to cover the caps on these. So this is rectangular, may not perfectly look rectangular. And I've actually got the edges here scribed in there. You probably can't see those. Those are from my reference mostly, because what I'm going to be doing here, and then I'm going to drill a single hole through there, and I'm doing it while it's still attached because it makes it a heck of a lot easier for clamping if I'm clamping a nice big piece of steel like this than if I'm trying to drill a little tiny rectangle. I'm going to drill a 1/4 inch hole in there. I think the lag bolt may be just ever so slightly bigger than a 1/4 inch, so I may have to walk that just a smidge to get it to be the right size. And once I get that done, then I will have a visual representation of where it's going to go through. Then I want to put 2 holes here at a 45-degree angle, which is why I have those highlights, so I can draw a 45-degree angle through the center when I'm done. And I'm going to put 2 holes here far enough away that I can countersink 2 wood screws. So I need to get the wood screw in there, figure out the diameter of the head, and make sure that I put them far enough away that I can get them to be countersunk so that they'll be flush with the end, but still within this square that I've scribed on here, because those are going to be the 2 screws that hold this to the baluster. So they're going to go through the baluster vertically to the end, as well as the lag screw, the eye screw that I'm using to hold the whole chain assembly together. And then I'm going to use here, I'm probably going to be drilling in 4. I'll figure out what distance I want. I do the same from this end, and then I'll put 2 in the middle, and I'll probably do 4 holes here. I haven't decided if it's going to be 4 or 3. I think that's kind of an aesthetic thing. I have to look at the fasteners I'll be using. And I'm going to be using thinner, shorter fasteners so that I don't have to worry about going all the way through, because I'd like to get as high up as I can as possible without interfering with the fasteners that are coming vertically through the baluster. So we'll see how that works. If I'm going to be interfering with each other, I obviously can't do it. But if the fasteners will not be interfering with each other, I'm going to get as high as I can up here. Preferably a square, so I'll come down the same distance. This is a width. And I think this is a 1 inch. So I'll be coming down a 1 inch for the first hole, and then I'd come up for 1 inch for the second hole, and then I'd figure out if I want to do 3 or 4 fasteners. So that would give me the 2 laggets. This will give me the end cap, and then once I have those all figured out where they're going to be and everything, I'll probably install this first, because that'll give me a nice positive stop for these so I can do some layout. Then I can figure out where I want to begin shaping the baluster shaft from a square to an octagonal, because that is my goal. I like an octagonal shaft. The shaft on this thing, I just think it's an 1.25 inch. Square is just too big. But if I bring it down to an octagonal, it's much more comfortable to hold. Alrighty, so the first thing I need to do is this. This is the next thing. So drill a hole here, then start the layout for the 2 wood screws that I'll be using to hold this to the end of the baluster. So it's not quite working out the way I want to, but I think this is going to end up with a nice rectangle, nice crisp angled. It's gonna look very nice and sharp when I'm done, as opposed to if I'd bent it, there would be a radius at each corner. If you're bending a piece of straight steel, you're going to end up with a radius at each corner. So this is going to give it a crisper, sharper look. We'll see how that ends up with, but I'm pretty happy with the way it's going so far. So I have installed the end plate, and as I said, it acts as a nice stop, and this is just over the edge here, so it's going to give complete protection to that. However, the wood screws I used are 1.5 inches long. Obviously, they're taking up some of this with here, but I've also chamfered them because you can't see them because there's chamfers there, so they're flush. So I'm going to come down 1 inch and like 3/4, and I was looking at the wood, and it's only 1.25 inches wide, thick, and I'm like, I don't know if I trust just going with screws. So I decided to go with these. These are pieces of 1/4 inch 20 rod that are left over from a failed use in the boom project I did. I don't know if any of you folks watched that one, where I built a 8-foot stainless steel boom for my wife's weather station. And that will mean I can get pressure coming from both sides, and that's going to be much more secure. So I'm going to go with 3, and I'll come in 1 3/4 here, and I'll probably come up 1 inch here, and then I'll find wherever the distance between those two is, and I'll put the third one. And so then these are actually a smidge too long, so I'm going to have to figure out what the exact length is once I get everything drilled, and I can actually put them in place and get a feel for how much I need to remove, which, it's always good if they're a little too long. It's always easy to make them shorter. And I've decided I'm going to come up to this point with my kind of octagonal vibe. Well, I'm going to start at this point, and I'm going to work my way down. This is just pencil. I can knock that off with some sandpaper later to me so that you won't notice that. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to be using my V-block device I use for drilling round tubing in my drill press to actually hold this at a 45-degree angle like this, so I can work on it. And I'm actually going to give it a shot and see if I can use this Stanley plane to maybe at least get me a start to something that looks vaguely octagonal shape. We're going to see how much I can remove with that, how well it's gone. I've honed the edge on the blade. I picked that up for cheap at like a yard sale or an estate sale or something. I've never tried using it. I know what kind of shape it's in. Like I said, I've honed the edge, but I haven't actually used the plane itself. We're going to find out how well that works in a minute. So I'm going to work on that next. Actually, should I work on that one next? I should work on these next. We're going to work on this next. We'll work on this next. I don't want to make sure I don't have to worry about these being in place for that, because that's obviously going to change the shape of the thing. So we're going to work on this next. We'll work on the grip. And when the grip is done, then I will come up here and start working on these 3 pieces right there. Alrighty. So get the V-block out, clamp stuff in place, and see if I can put a chamfer, or a good-sized chamfer, on this baluster. So here's the setup I'm using for this process. Again, I have my V-block set up in here, 2 clamps, which happen to fit quite nicely into the slots that I normally use for bolting it to my drill press. And here is and it works just beautifully. I'm no carpenter, but that's reasonably octagonal. I'm quite happy with it, and I find it to be quite comfortable. And it's nice. It's got a nice taper because I started each stroke at the same location. I basically just put roughly like that the beginning of the plane itself at that mark, and then just whoop right down. Again, I'm not a carpenter. It's not perfect. So there are carpenters out there right now who are probably cringing if they're watching this. But it worked, and it came out nice, and I've now got a floor covered in shavings. I gotta tell you, I can see the attraction. There's a certain meditative aspect about doing this kind of planing action. There really is. So it was kind of cool. I enjoyed that. So I'll probably be using that again. Fortunately, I don't like doing this in my shop because even though I sweep up thoroughly, the most common thing I do down here is grind things, which means sparks go everywhere. So I never like the fact that there's sawdust in my basement. So I'm currently planning on maybe coming up with an idea of an outside workstation And I'm currently kind of trying to find some materials to put that together. Because if I can make it happen, I can then work on wood outside, or if there are chips on the ground, I don't care. It's outside. I'll just sweep them up, get rid of them, because I don't grind outside. I grind down here. Alrighty. So then I have that done. I'm going to work on these and then lay them out here, and then we'll get to the assembly portion. I will have to drill 3 holes through this, but not too hard to do. It's flat. It's nice and square. Drilling holes through wood, it's nice and square, is not difficult to do. I am going to see if I can use, I think I have a 1/4 inch brad point, because I would like to see if I can do the best job I can of not getting any split out, because even though I'm going to put langets in it, I don't want to have it to have big voids under there if I can avoid it. So I'm going to see if I can do to minimize the split out by just having the drill bit just kiss the out, just poke out the other side, the exit side, then I can turn it over and finish it up. Alrighty, really happy with this. It worked out very well. I'm quite pleased. Apparently I can't do even holes, but screw it. They look really good. I don't care if the spacing isn't perfect. They look great. This thing is just awesome, and just by itself, it's got a great weight, man. Seriously, this would make an excellent mace all by itself. In fact, this design right here, with a plate here at the end for a capper, and then 4 laggets like this, would be just perfect. It would be really, really quite nice. So that's a future project. In fact, I even have a piece of steel kicking around, which I think would make a really nice topper, because I could make it just a little bit wider so you get some point impact as well. Okay, so the last step here, which is I'm going to put the eye bolt in here and then screw this onto it, because that's the easiest way to do it. And then this project is complete. So here's the completed project. This thing is just beautiful. It is. It's just so damn awesome. It's this wonderful combination of this kind of classic medieval design, which I know that we don't know if they were ever actually used. I don't care. With this post-apocalyptic vibe, this nice chain, got some nice patina on it, and I put some tung oil on this so it darkened up the wood a little bit, which is nice. I am so happy with this project. I can remember years ago before I'd gotten into building, and I was just in the stage of sketching, and I'd look at stuff and I'm like, it'd be really cool to have like have a flail or something like that. And I'd see these things online, and I'd look at them and I go, that's not gonna work. That's cheaply made. It's not made of quality stuff. It's not gonna survive, use or anything. It's just a wall hanger. And this is not just a wall hanger. I learned some new skills here with using the plane. I haven't used a plane in a very long time, and then it was just very amateurishly. This came out really nicely, gave me a nice octagonal vibe, fading up in here into the square. Again, I got the spacing wrong, but you know something? Thanks to the fact that I have a new dose of serotonin in my brain, I take 150 milligrams of serotonin twice a day. I don't care. I really don't. They came out beautifully. I got them exactly in the same center, in the holes. They got them all lined up. Everything was perfect, and the fact that the spacing's off, I'm actually thinking it's kind of damn funny. It wasn't intentional, but yeah, it is what it is. I got this screwed all the way into the eye bolt itself. So I got as much, get as much bite in that wood as I can get. I have it bottom out on the steel, and I just happen to make it perpendicular. What the hell? Why not? So they can take this outside, and I'll get some pictures for both this video and for my DeviantArt page, where you should go and you should follow me on DeviantArt, because that's where I keep the permanent home of the stills from all my projects. You should also follow me on Instagram, because that's where I do cool things, like I show things I collect. I show you cute cat pictures. It's all just a wonderful place to hang out and see a little slice of life of the Mad Maker himself. So this has been great. I've had a lot of fun here. I had a good time making this project. I'm very happy. Alrighty, so thank you for being here for this project. I hope that you'll come back for the next one.